Today, we are really strapping in for what feels like the ultimate cultural shortcut. We're going to try and figure out the individuals who are truly defining 2025. The people holding the levers of culture, power, and maybe most importantly, attention. Our whole mission here is to cut through the noise, go beyond just the headlines. We're using hard data search trends, those big institutional lists like Time 100, Time 100 Next, to really pull out the key nuggets about who actually matters right now.
Exactly. And this data, it gives us a kind of map of what our sources are calling this multipolar fame ecosystem, which sounds complicated, but it really boils down to tracking two very different signals to understand it. First, there's what we call institutional recognition. This is, authority, policy levers, legacy. Think of it as the more traditional kind of power, the people getting recognized by established structures, ending up on those high prestige lists.
Okay, that makes sense. It's sort of official power. And the second signal.
That's search demand. And this one's different. It's pure, unfiltered attention. It's algorithmic heat, virality. Think of it like the fire that can get started by just one TikTok clip, right? Or maybe a single polarizing comment that suddenly sends everyone scrambling to Google, even if the person getting all that attention hasn't, say, met with the head of state all year. What's really fascinating is seeing how these two systems, institutional recognition and raw attention, they often crown completely different winners. We need to look right at that collision point, where attention and authority meet, or maybe where they clash.
Okay, got it. So let's unpack this by starting maybe at the top with that power axis you mentioned, where those two forces are in this constant defining tension. Looking at the global search numbers for 2025, the big agenda setters, they seem pretty obvious, but the source of their power feels worlds apart.
That's exactly right. So right at the top of major search results in 2025, you find Donald Trump. He remains the current U.S. president after the election. His institutional presence, it shapes policy, it shapes the debates around policy and global narratives pretty much daily. His power comes from the ballot box, the office he holds, the established systems of government. Very traditional in that sense.
And then right alongside him in those rankings, you've got Elon Musk. His footprint across EVs, space, AI, social media, it just keeps him cemented near the top everywhere. Our sources pointed out that Time's 2025 coverage really frames him not just as an innovator, which he obviously is, but also as this kind of lightning rod, someone who drives these persistent media cycles, platform debates, all that algorithmic attention, almost through sheer personality and the scale of his ventures.
And right there, that gives us the defining tension, I think, of this era.
Yeah.
Who actually exerts more real-world influence? Is it the elected leader? The one using policy levers that grind slowly through Congress and the courts? Or is it the private innovator, someone like Musk, who shapes the actual platforms we use, the AI systems coming online, the public conversation itself at scale, almost instantly? Like with a click of a button or an algorithm change, that tension really gets at where real-world power sits today.
It's interesting, though, because influence isn't just a U.S. story, right? When we look beyond the American context, the map kind of shifts. What did the sources highlight about global power?
Yeah, that's a good point. We see that institutional recognition definitely captures a broader range of influence globally. The sources highlight, for instance, Keir Starmer's emergence as the UK Prime Minister. That's traditional electoral power. But they also put a spotlight back on Muhammad Yunus. For listeners who might need a quick reminder, he's the Nobel laureate, famous for pioneering microfinance. His sort of enduring legacy shows how institutional fame still values profound impact in things like grassroots economics, social entrepreneurship, even if he doesn't generate that same, algorithmic heat as a tech CEO or a politician.
Okay, so we've looked at the institutional heavyweights. What happens if we crank the dial completely the other way, towards pure algorithmic heat? Let's talk pop culture. Here, fame seems overwhelmingly measured in search heat. So the big question for you is search heat actually a fair way to measure lasting cultural importance, or does it just, overemphasize fleeting trends?
That is the core friction point, isn't it? It really highlights the difference between, say, a marathon and a sprint. And the thing is, both matter hugely to this economy of attention we're in.
Okay, let's zero in on the marathon runner first. Taylor Swift comes to mind immediately.
Absolutely. Taylor Swift, well, she remains among the most searched and most monetarily dominant entertainers in 2025. It's her touring machine, the ongoing strategy with the re-recordings, her just sheer media footprint. It makes her cultural constant. She doesn't just drive fan economy, she kind of dictates industry strategy globally now.
Hmm.
Her power feels durable, predictable, and incredibly monetizable. It goes way beyond any single viral moment.
But then you have the sprint, and this year, that's really embodied by someone like Sabrina Carpenter, right? Her jump from opening act to, well, undeniable headliner status. It really crystallized with that espresso and please, please, please run. She's become, Gen Z's current it girl in 2025, totally dominating TikTok, streaming engagement. The sources point out that her singles, they have this huge replay value, plus the tour momentum. It keeps her engagement incredibly sticky. It just shows how quickly someone can reach critical mass today.
It's astonishingly fast.
But hang on, if the definition of fame is shifting, maybe becoming faster, more disposable, does that mean the whole longevity conversation is kind of missing the point? Is the new model just rapid, short-term virality, immediate financial conversion? Does durable power still matter if attention just keeps jumping to the newest sprint winner?
That's a really great challenge to the idea. But the sources, they seem to suggest that the marathoners, the mega brand pop stars, they still hold this anchoring power in the ecosystem. We're talking about that cluster, including, say, Rihanna, Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Beyonce. They all maintain significant search gravity in 2025, which keeps them relevant even when they're between major album cycles.
How does that work exactly when they aren't actively releasing music?
Well, take Rihanna, for example. One source noted, looking at her search data outside a music release cycle, something like 70% of her traffic is driven by fashion and beauty queries related to Fenty. Only about 30% is music. So it's this collective pull their back catalog, yes, but also strategic beauty and fashion ventures, just cultural memory that anchors their fame way beyond a typical release calendar. They've built brands that are kind of insulated from the quick expiration date of a single viral trend.
Well, unfortunately, the data also seems to remind us that controversy and tension are still incredibly effective drivers of that algorithmic heat, aren't they?
Absolutely. Look at Kanye West. He continues to draw just outsized attention through his music, yes, but also fashion cycles, controversy cycles,
Yeah.
commanding headlines and social conversation through polarizing public moments. And then there's someone like Chris Brown. His long-running chart presence combined with renewed award attention in 2025. It illustrates how that tension between past controversies and present output, it fuels very active coverage. It's maybe a painful thing to acknowledge, but it's necessary. Controversy generates significant clicks and sustained conversation, whether it feels deserved or not.
Okay, let's shift gears. Moving from the stage to the pitch, maybe at the Global Sports Network. Here, fame is inherently global, and it seems increasingly built on this model of the athlete as media network.
Yeah, that model basically means the athlete is the CEO of their own content and brand operation. Their following isn't just a bonus, it is the primary product. And that network, well, it probably starts with Cristiano Ronaldo. He's just a global attention engine, right? Sitting at the intersection of football performance, massive brand power, and just unprecedented social media scale. His following across all platforms really serves as the benchmark for this modern athlete as media entity. He generates fan economies across continents.
He's definitely the global gold standard. But the power isn't all centralized with him, is it? Our sources also highlight this kind of regional magnetism, mentioning figures like Lionel Messi and Virat Kohli. Messi's superstardom is still huge, obviously, but Kohli's footprint in South Asia is particularly interesting.
It really is. Their importance shows how sports fame can localize into this intense national or regional pride. Think about the absolute fervor around cricket in South Asia for Kohli. But that localized intensity, it still travels effortlessly across borders, mainly through short clips and highlights now. That passion becomes global currency, thanks to the algorithmic engines of platforms like YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels.
And then you've got the athletes who build attention just by winning, repeatedly. The serial winners.
Exactly. Novak Djokovic in tennis, Max Verstappen in Formula One, they illustrate this perfectly. Their sustained dominance doesn't just create headlines during the tournament or the race week itself. It fuels these season-to-season storylines, the rivalries, the debates that feed ongoing search queries and highlight reels, all through 2025. Serial winning, especially in sports with a really produced seasonal narrative like F1, it creates this compounding effect. It builds massive, consistent search demand, even outside of the main event weeks.
That idea of compounding attention leads us nicely into the next area, platform power. We're talking about the figures whose entire careers seem sustained by platform-native engagement, where commerce and content are, well, basically the same thing.
Yeah, if you want to know who's truly winning the attention economy purely through platform scale, you just look at the top-tier Instagram magnates in 2025. Let's take Kylie Jenner as maybe the prime case study here. Her follower scale and the immediate product tie-ins. It demonstrates precisely how commerce, content, and community just merge into one thing. Her attention isn't just fame in the old sense. It's a verifiable asset that she converts directly into revenue through ventures like Kylie Cosmetics. That feels like the ultimate monetization of the attention economy.
It's incredible how quickly that attention can be converted, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just short-form virality that's ruling the day, is it? Look at Joe Rogan. His persistent search presence suggests that long-form audio video still has real durability as a culture driver.
Rogan is such an interesting outlier, isn't he? He sort of proves the durability of high-trust, personality-driven content. His success seems to thrive when that long-form audio video gets combined with cross-platform clips that distill the conversational bits, making them viral. He doesn't need to be on the Time 100 list to influence the narrative around policy or science or culture. He just needs the platform and the conversation itself.
Which brings us to those who are maybe playing the smartest game, the hybrid careers, the cross-genre connectors. Who's really future-proofing their attention in this landscape?
Well, figures like Ed Sheeran, Nicki Minaj, Zendaya,
Yeah.
they seem to be masters of this. They intentionally bridge music, film, fashion, social reach. You see them appearing across various influential rundowns in 2025. Their ability to manage multiple media streams simultaneously, like a music tour, then a movie premieres, then a fashion campaign, it signals how these hybrid careers can mitigate platform risk. It helps guarantee sustained attention in what feels like an increasingly fragmented media world.
Okay, so we've covered the big names dominating today, but let's look ahead for a moment. We promised you, the listener, a kind of shortcut to future dominance. Who are the next-gen risers we should be watching?
Right, this is where we circle back to some of that institutional data, specifically the Time 100 Next list for 2025. This list, it functions almost like a prediction market for future fame. It highlights emerging leaders across politics, creative fields, business, the people who could be dominating headlines over the next 3 years or so.
And what's the key takeaway from looking at that list specifically?
Well, crucially, the sources note that the names on that list span government, tech, and culture almost equally. And that, I think, signals a pretty massive cultural shift. The future of celebrity, it seems, increasingly includes policymakers and founders right alongside the traditional artists. It suggests a move away from pure entertainment towards maybe verifiable outcomes or impact.
That trend seems reinforced by looking at something like the 2025 Forbes 30 Under 30 Celebrities list, too. It really showcases athletes and creators who are actively turning their fame into actual ventures, into causes, not just more content.
It absolutely aligns with that idea of platform-first brand building. Young stars today, they're almost expected to scale through sophisticated collaborations, building deep community, making smart crossovers into commerce or philanthropy. The expectation now isn't just be an artist, it's build an empire, manage your risk, diversify your fame portfolio.
Wow. Okay, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into who holds the keys to 2025 culture and attention. So if there's one single, most important lesson the listener should take away about the structure of fame right now, what would it be?
I think the core conclusion has to be recognizing that fame in 2025 is truly a composite. It's defined by both institutional authority and algorithmic attention. And often, these two forces are in direct conflict. The search economy might crown a very different winner than the time lists. But true, defining influence, that seems increasingly found in that narrow band where the two forces actually overlap. Attention isn't the same as authority, for sure. But authority without any attention, that seems to fade pretty quickly into irrelevance these days.
That leads perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Given that the future of fame, especially looking at that Time 100 Next data, seems to be shifting pretty dramatically away from pure star power towards these hybrid careers, towards entrepreneurial or even political influence, does pure entertainment star power still hold the same kind of gravity it did even 5 years ago? Or, looking ahead to maybe 2030, will the CEO celebrity model that combination of massive influence with verifiable policy power or venture capital backing ultimately win the attention war, maybe reducing the traditional entertainer to more of a supporting role? Something for you to mull over. We'll be back next time for another deep dive.